This is a tasker scene, and using tasker scenes, you can create some integrations between different APIs or apps that you have using just your phone. Like this, where I can create a to-do list, or if I had different questions that I wanted to post, like how do I use a tasker scene, I can make that integrate directly with my Notion to keep my notes really clean on the go. So let's get right into it. All right, that's better. So let me share my screen and we'll get right into it. So first things first, to get to the scene page, you're going to click the scene location right over here, right? And then you're going to click and create a name, test, or let's make this tutorial, if I could type right, tutorial scene, right? And you're gonna open up this window. Now, this first window edits the scene that is going to pop up, like the size of it. So if you grab a corner, you can create it moving it like this, right? This is changing the size of the window that you can expect to see once the scene actually pops up. We'll talk more about that later. So if you notice, by dragging one side, let's drag this right side, you can go in one direction. If you grab the top, you can go a different direction, right? Once you grab it, do you see these little clicks that they're doing? They're little tiny grids that or grid points that it's snapping to. And so to change that, you can come up here, and if I recall correctly, the larger the size of the grid, the bigger the snaps that they do. The smaller the size of the grid, the smaller the snaps that they do, right? So if I do this, this should make some really, yeah, see the super fine snaps. Technically it's snapping, but it also moves kind of slow if you do it too low. If you truly want no grid, just put it to 0, and this will let you drag or move however you want. Why is it not doing it? All right, timeout, timeout, timeout. Anyway, what used to happen was when you would make the grid 0 or grid size 0, it would allow you to move freely, right? There would be no snapping whatsoever. I don't know what happened, but now it seems like that isn't the case. I can't actually grab it or move it around. Play around with the grid setting. It's a little bit finicky right now. I don't know what that's about. We're gonna move on. So that's the grid size. For sake of this video and time, we're gonna put this up to like 10. It's gonna be nice and low, but it should be able to move smoothly right there, right? It can move around as freely as I want it to or as I need it to. So if you click down here in the bottom left corner, you have the like the resize version, and resize lets you actually have these little clicks that would jump by grid size, assuming you have a grid size, right? If you don't have a grid size, I don't know what's gonna do because clearly it's not working, right? I don't know what this A to Z does, I'm gonna be honest. I've also never had to use the A to Z mode. I have to imagine that's a sorting filter. I'm not actually certain. We'll get back to that later. We're going to make a nice little window, right, like this, and then we're gonna go up into the properties, right? So when you're in the properties, there's a couple different types of ways that you can trigger this pop-up or what style of pop-up it's going to be. An overlay is essentially a window over your screen, right? So whatever all the stuff that's on your screen when you're looking at it, it's just a window over top of it, okay? The dialog, right? A dialog is one of those focus pop-ups, right? So when you pop it up, it will be the only thing that you can actually touch, whereas with an overlay, you can touch the screen behind it because it's not focused, right? And then an activity is essentially an app. So it'll take up the full screen. I'm pretty sure you can swipe it away, but that's what it is, right? Now, for this window, don't worry about all the different settings and like the background color of it because I'm going to show you a little trick for that later. It's actually better. So for the sake of this, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we can actually see the background, but not that we're going to focus on the background. So let's make it a light, no, my background's blue. We're gonna make this yellow and we're gonna make this pretty apparent. Let's try and make it a little darker. There we go. Cool. So this is what our window's gonna look like, right? Now, in the bottom right corner, this magnifying glass toggles between editing the window and editing the elements within the window, okay? So we're gonna click right here. Now, with the minus sign, that means now we are editing the stuff within the scene itself, okay? So down here, this is how you add stuff. In fact, let's get rid of this. And here's all the different elements that you can use. Right now, we're just gonna focus on some of the more simpler ones, right? So when you are using these, in fact, before we're going to go to style points later. For now, we're going to focus on function, okay? So a button, simple button, here we go. You click the button, right? And it allows you to make the label size, has a whole bunch of different things. These are all just for style points, right? When you create a button, you're not going to have as much creative freedoms as you want. Essentially, you're going to have to create your own buttons using different elements if you want extra style points. What this is going to do is going to make a little rectangle with sharp corners, and it's going to be gray. Notice how you don't have a background color. You only have the label color because the label is going to be the text on the button. So you can control that. Excellent. So we can make this bright pink, and we're going to leave it like that. We're going to name this label Activate, because why not? We're going to leave it called Button, and then now we're going to do On Tap. Now, this is important because you always, always, always want to have a close button that destroys the scene. What does that mean? Well, when you show a scene, that's how we're going to activate it. To close a scene so it isn't running in the background, you have to destroy it. You're not actually like deleting or anything. That's just what it's called. That's the close button. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to click here, and then we're going to, now mine is right here because these are shortcuts, but I'm going to do a long press. So this is what you're going to see, right? So destroy scene, there it is. We're going to click this one. And it's automatically going to select the one that you have right now, or like whichever one you have running. That's perfectly fine because that's what we want. So we're going to keep that there. And now on button press, and this is going to actually, we're going to change this to close. Now when we look, see, you can only stylize just that, right? Now, how are we going to test this scene? Because right now it's popped up, yes, but we have no way to actually show what is, or like make this scene pop up. So we have to go back to Tasker. We're going to go to our tasks, and we're going to create something really quick. And we're going to say to scene tutorial start. Cool, right? And then we're going to come in here, and we're going to go to scene, right? And then we're going to look for create scene. No, that's not right. We want show scene. Sorry, show scene. So here we're going to use this lovely little, the magnifying glass, right? I know, I'm so thrilled about being able to write on screen. We're going to hit the magnifying glass, and now we're going to look for it. We're at tutorial scene. Boom, perfect. Now, this is super, super, super important. The reason why we made the button first is because if for whatever reason you decide to pop up an overlay with too dense of a background color and it blocks everything on your screen, no, it's not going to stop you from touching stuff on the background, right? But you won't be able to see what you're pressing. And you can't turn it off unless you turn off Tasker. And how are you going to do that if, once again, you can't see what's running, right? So my default go-to if that happens, and it almost did happen to me, I'm going to be real. That's why I made everything lightly transparent, is restart your phone and pray it's not bricked. So what does that mean? Here are the different types, and we kind of talked about these before. If we use the overlay, that's non-blocking, right? It's literally just a pop-up window. You can't see what's behind it, but you can poke through it, right? If you use the overlay blocking, this one is blocking, means that the stuff on the window you can now interact with. You can't touch what is behind the overlay, all right? And then they have overlay blocking full window, right? And that's the same thing, it's just bigger screen. It's automatically gonna make whatever you do larger, right? Then you have the dialog. This is your classic pop-up focus. You can't touch anything that's behind, even if it's not covering anything, you still can't interact with it. Whereas with the overlay, you can. With dialog, anything that is on screen is not accessible because the only thing you can touch is whatever that pop-up is, right? And then these are just kind of how much do you want to dim the background. I typically don't, but you can. In fact, if I do my little shortcut, right, that we saw earlier, notice I'm doing stuff back here. I'm trying to click around back here, and I can't touch it because this is a dialog. You cannot use text edits like this little text box. You can't use that in an overlay. It has to be a dialog. We'll get more to that later. Okay, so, and then you have activities. Now, activities are kind of interesting. I've never used them. I really don't like using them that much, but that's a personal gripe. they have different, like, okay, so the activity is going to pop up and it's going to have the navigation bar, it's going to have a status bar, and then it's going to have a title bar. The title bar is the name of the activity. In this case, it's going to be tutorial scene, I believe, if I recall correctly. No bar is going to get rid of that name slide. It's just going to be full screen, right? No status means you're not going to have this bar up here where you have all the other things. It's going to be true full screen, but it will have the bar and it will have a navigation bar. You see where this is going, right? No bar, no status means no title of the activity and no status bar, and then there's none of the above, right? My go-to is always overlay blocking or dialog, but usually dialog is going to be everything that you want. So we're going to do dialog. Now, the location, here's how you change the location of where it's going to pop up, right? Right is high, or right is right, left is left. This is one of those things where you just kind of have to feel it out depending on what device you're on, right? Because they don't really tell you how much you're doing it. I think there's a better way to do this, but we're going to take a look at that later. For right now, this is saying where you want to pop this scene up. And then this one, right is down, left is up. But we want to keep that dead center. I think there's a lock here somewhere. Whatever, we're just going to leave it lightly down and lightly center, whatever. Animations, I haven't seen these do a ton. I've tried to play with these. I don't know if it's because I'm using Android 16 or what, but these haven't done anything for me. Always want to show an exit button because you never want this to like be breaking, right? And if you're going to use overlay, I pray for you that you remember, use overlay blocking, right? And always, always, always have a close button first. Never pop one over without a close button or ensuring that you can actually get back to Tasker. Dialogues are also better because you can actually do like the back button on Android and it'll just get you out of it. It'll still be running in the background, but at least now you can get to Tasker. I'm not so certain that you can do that with overlay. So this is what it's going to look like. Okay, cool. So now that we have our pop-up, if we run this, there it is. There's our window. Notice back there, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Or like I can't see the background. In fact, if I go to my home screen, right? I didn't think this through. Okay, well, I don't have the trigger up right now, so it's fine. But if I click this, now it closes. That's why that's important. Without that, that would be running until I could get back to Tasker and actually close it. No bueno. So now that we have this up and running, here's the best way that I like to test things. That is the end. Like that alone will give you more than enough to do a lot of things, but this is where this becomes powerful, okay? Because Tasker isn't 100% perfect. It's still a little clunky here and there, but it does give you vastly more power than any other application I've ever come across, period, for a cell phone. It's crazy. So you just kind of have to put up with some of these things. Here's the next thing we're going to do. So we're going to create a scene test, and don't worry, we're going to get more into more things inside of like the scene, but I just want to make sure you had everything you could. So let's make a test, a scene tester, right? And so what we're going to do here is we're going to, we didn't make the new scene. You know what? I'm going to do this quickly, but if you really want to just get to why we're making this or like how it works and that kind of thing, I'm going to put a time skip frame right here or whatever, so that you know what time to jump to, so that you can just carry on. But I'm going to go through how to create this if you wanted to create this as well, right? So first things first, we're going to make a scene. Test scene. And I think this is really important because it helps you a ton, right? And this doesn't have to be large. In fact, I try to make them as small as possible. I'm just going to do like that big. It really does not have to be large. And then we're going to open this up. We're going to go in here. We're going to click a button on long tap, because we're going to do this a little backwards. We're going to destroy the same thing, right? So if you long hold it, it's going to destroy and get rid of this. That is super useful because you don't want this, once again, always have the close button, right? But on tap, we want it to actually activate our other scene. Now, this is where that was one of those important things, because now we're going to go back over here and we're going to create activate. I'm in the right place. activate test or target scene. Activate target scene. Okay, cool. So we're gonna come here and we want show. Do I have show scene? I do. Sweet. We want show scene and we want this to activate our tutorial scene. That's what we want. And we want this to pop as a dialog because we don't want anything to break on my system. Awesome. Why am I doing this? So these scenes can get a little finicky sometimes. Even if you put stuff right here, chances are I don't know, every once in a while a scene will break. And when I say break, I mean it just needs to be restarted. It doesn't run the full task that you put here, even though the buttons are supposed to do the thing. And so a way to get around that is I always do a run or perform task. And then I'll have the perform task point to whatever it is that I wanted to do. Tutorial, I think I named it activate. Yeah, activate target scene. Should have changed that to tutorial, but you get what I'm going for, right? I don't know why this never fails me where just a button press would. I just didn't ask questions. So, and one last thing is we should always title this. Always title this. So we're gonna make this label and we're gonna name it, this is gonna be our activate button, right? And this, I think this is where it's going to be located when it pops up, but we'll see what happens. Oh, it's too small. Keep in mind, when you click that magnifying glass button, it's going to zoom out. See how big the letters are? That's why we couldn't see anything. We're gonna have to go in here and make this smaller because this button is gonna be wicked small, right? But this window is not what is going to pop up when I click this. This button is going to be an itty bitty baby. Like, it's gonna be this big. But when you click that magnifying glass, it wants to give you as much space as possible to edit stuff within the window. So it zooms in all the way. And sometimes even I forget to like be careful of that. So that button, if I click back, actually, you should be able to see it. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Yeah, see how small that button is? Yeah, and I always add a darker color because you don't want this to like get in the way of stuff. Whatever, it's fine. All right, so now we have our test scene. So activate target scene. We want to show it as our tutorial scene. No, that's the activate the target scene. And we want our scene start. What am I doing here? We still need to show test scene. We still need to show the test scene because we need to like actually activate it. So we're going to do this one, and we need to still be able to interact with the stuff in the background. So we're going to do an overlay blocking. Okay. We want, typically whenever I do this, I do it a little bit to the left and then all the way to the top, because I want it like up here. This will float over the nav bar. So, I mean, if you care about that, great. If you don't, sweet too, but I'm just giving you a heads up. And then we did tutorial test scene, right? Now if I click this, there it is, boom. If I click that, it activates the actual scene, right? So sometimes you got to think a little bit with portals, but this is super useful. The reason why this is useful is because whenever you want to rapidly, like while you're developing your scene, you want to be able to have the turnaround time as fast as possible. Whereas like you make a new change, you can test if it worked. You make a new change, you test if it worked. Make a new change, test if it worked. This is going to give you that speed, because now instead of having to go find this scene, and trust me, instead of having to like go open the scene, test the scene, it didn't work, come back, do the thing, like go back in here, run the scene again, see if it worked, it didn't work, go back in here, run the scene again, go back in here. Like you see, it's just too much clicking. It's just create a test scene button and have it floating. So show tutorial test scene, we want that running. All right, cool. So excellent. Now that we know how to have the actual test scene button running, we're going to go back into our regular scene, tutorial scene, and now we're going to make some edits. So I promised you some customization upgrades. Here are those customization upgrades. You can move these things around when you're grabbing any element. Make sure that you're grabbing as close to the center as possible, because if it's anywhere near, that happens. Like you start grabbing the edges because it's made for fingers, right? And so they want to make sure you don't get too frustrated, and by doing that, they made it more frustrating. It happens. So I usually keep the close button in the bottom right corner, right? That's just me. Put it wherever you want. But right now we're going to change the background so we have a little bit of extra style points. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a rectangle. And typically for this trick, you're going to want to use a rectangle or an oval. I'll usually grab a rectangle because notice I can change the color of the rectangle, right? I can give it colors, I can give it a border radius, or a border width, which is like a ring or whatever, you know what it is. I can give it a corner radius, so now it's rounded instead of just sharp angles, right? And then once I create this, I'm going to hold this button, or hold like long press, and I'm going to set it as the background. There it is. But notice the background is still yellow because we never got rid of the actual window. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back out, and this is what size the window is actually going to be, right? We're going to come inside grid size, not grid size. We're going to go inside of properties, right? And now is where we go and edit this, and we turn it all the way down. Only do this once you have set something else so that you could see it, because otherwise it's going to make editing this very difficult, right? 2, you already made the close button. I cannot stress this enough. Please, please, please never forget to make the close button. And make sure it's a dialog, unless you want something like this where it's a blocking overlay. Because an overlay, even if it has a button on it, you will not be able to click it. We're going to touch on key another day, not today. So when you're here, right, now if I click here, this is the background. It's the background. So I can't actually edit this rectangle to change the colors unless I long hold. Oh, right. I was editing the window size. See how confusing that is? Awesome. Unless I long hold. And now I can actually edit the background. So, or the rectangle. So we're going to go in here and we're going to edit the rectangle. And now we're going to add some style points. I hate borders on my stuff unless specifically that's the only thing I want to see. So I'm going to turn that off, and then we're going to make this as ugly as possible. So we're going to do a diagonal top left, and then we're going to do a bottom right one. And I'm going to make this, fun fact, this is not broken if you try to change the slider. You have to touch on the screen first before the slider will actually show anything. Thank you, Tasker. So we're going to make one of them Tiffany blue, and we're going to make the other one orange. Again, click the thing first. Yes, it's every single time you have to do that, anytime you do a new color. And we're going to make this a little more golden. I want like a golden. Close enough. Cool. There. And I love my corner radiuses. So I'm going to give it a nice little soft corner radius. And you can come down here and change whichever ones you want. Top is going to be top 2, bottom's bottom 2, left 2. You get it. We're going to do all because I want them all to be the same. And then here is where you're going to find I think this is the location, like X and Y coordinates of how big it's going to be and where it's coming from, because I'm pretty certain this isn't where you do no, it is. X and Y position is first and then the size. So cool. So you can change where you want it to show and what size it is. I don't know where the reference point of this is. I'll do some more testing. I'll get back to you in like a more in-depth video where I go over the elements, but for now, just know that it's our background. I don't recommend adding anything to the actual background, because if for whatever reason you put so many different items in here or like elements on this window that you can't get to the background, it'll make it frustrating when you're now missing functionality. Or B, if you accidentally tap the background and close out your window, I don't know. It's just like a little bit of thinking goes a long way with this kind of thing. Stroke. I think this is like how you can swipe it away if you wanted to. I haven't played with this that much because I haven't needed to. But this is all in the background. Right. So I don't like the way these buttons look. In fact, I hate them. And just so that you know, before you can test the scene that you're doing, you have to back out of it so that it like pseudo saves. And then I'm going to activate it. There it is, right? I don't like the way these buttons look. I just don't. I never have, really. because they're always square. They're like kind of gross. I don't know, me thing. So what I like to do instead of having one of these buttons, what I'll do is I'll create an image first. And then it doesn't really matter what the image looks like because it just is, but I'll go into material. We're going to make it, I don't know, a C for close, I guess, right? It's going to look gross because it is technically an icon. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put this in the bottom right corner, right? I'm going to grab that and make this smaller. Cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a circle, right? And I'm going to make this, I'm going to not really give it, I'm going to give it a light color because I like doing like stuff in front, right? But then I'm going to give it a border width of a little bit darker, and I'm going to make this one more solid because then it kind of looks like a window. I don't know. I'm not really good at like UI design or anything yet, so we'll see what happens. But I'll bring this over here, and this, now granted, before you do this, what I'll do is I'll hold, if you click and hold this one, you can set depth. Depth is important. For every element that you have on screen, you're gonna have a different depth, okay? And they stack kind of up and lower and higher. So we're gonna go like this, and notice this is 2. I don't remember which one that was. I know I just clicked it. Yeah, that one's 2, so this one we want to be 3 because we want this one higher than the button under it, right? And so I'll go like this, and I'm gonna bring this down just like that. And now when I click that, I'm actually clicking the circle. And so then when I click this tap, this is where I'm gonna create the destroy scene, right? And this will keep over here because you always have a backup plan when you're testing something new. We're gonna back out. And now when we activate this, there it is. This is actually our close button because the circle over top of it actually closes. Cool stuff, right? So that's how you create extra style points. That's how you actually can make your windows look clean. There is a level above this, but it is definitely more technical. I'll go more in detail on that one next time. Let me know in the comments what you plan on making with this, and let me know if there's anything that I failed to touch on. But really, the best way you can learn anything that is on here is really just open it up and try and build something. If you have any questions or concerns, leave a comment, drop me a message. I don't know how to do this stuff. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.